In this episode, we're going to be modifying makeup with frequency separation and going from this to this. Hi everyone and welcome again. Michael Volshinovich here. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/vibrantshot. So today we're going to be taking a quick look at how you can use frequency separation to drastically alter makeup. And in this case, we're going to be focused on eyeshadow, but this technique can work equally well for blush on cheeks as well as touching up lips. And obviously, the main purpose of frequency separation, where it's most commonly used, is to retouch skin while preserving texture. So while we won't be covering the skin retouching, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of look at a more interesting use of frequency separation because we usually see it in the context of skin retouching. So with this photo here, essentially, the original eye makeup looks something like this, and I just thought that it was a little bit too much for the effect I was going for in this photo, and that it just drew a little bit too much attention to itself. So essentially, I was looking for some ways that we can tone this down and just essentially achieve this effect that we have here. So, and initial thoughts were that I was trying things like a clone stamp tool, and essentially what happens if you start cloning and stamping, if we just zoom in here and we grab our clone stamp tool, maybe we want to just kind of take this darker color here and blend it in, and then take, from the top here. We can try that, but what you'll generally find is regardless of whether you set a light and blend mode, a dark and blend mode, or even a normal blend mode, with normal it looks okay, but the problem is that you end up losing if you lower your opacity and you sort of build it up, you end up losing all of the texture around here, and that just doesn't look good at all. And then if we bring our opacity up, it's just you really can't find a blend that will work smoothly for it. So let's just give an example of that. Let's just select current and below there as sampling colors. And if we start doing this, then obviously it's just too abrupt of a transition here. So if we lower our opacity, on the other hand, to let's say 15% or so, and we try to build this up, so we take our reference point here and we start kind of blending this in, we see what happens as we kind of blend this in, that all of a sudden, if we zoom in really close, and this isn't actually even full resolution, I've actually reduced the size of this image, but you see that right away we start to lose all of the texture there. And as we keep doing this here, we blend over and try and get rid of some of this blue. The more we do it, the more we're losing all of this texture, and then the end effect is just, well, essentially looks like garbage. So and even if we zoom out, we can immediately see that that one spot there does not fit in with the rest of the skin, which is nicely textured. So without further ado, let's actually take a look at how we can achieve this in frequency separation. That's exactly the technique I use here, and we see that here I've got all my texture here, and this was kind of the most important spot where we have all these spectral highlights. I did not want to lose the texture there because that would be immediately noticeable. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this layer over here, and we're going to hide that one there. And what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this twice. And so, the mechanics of the actual frequency separation are fairly simple, and I'm sure you've probably seen them before. So we're just going to quickly go through this here. So we've created two copies, one that's called low, one that's called high. We're going to disable our high layer. We're going to go to blur, Gaussian blur, and we do not want 167 pixels because that's not going to work for us. But in my case, I would say, see, when I'm working at about 36 megapixels, then I usually go around 9. This is half resolution, so we're going to go, about 5 pixels should be good enough. So basically, what you want to do when you're doing frequency separation is get to the point where the finer details aren't really showing up, and all you're left with is color. If you go too low, then you can see that the detail is there. We don't want that. If you go too high, then we see that everything's kind of just blending together. So in this case, around 5 is a good amount. So we're just going to blur that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to select our high layer. We're going to make it visible, change blend mode to linear light. Where is it here? There we go. And then we're going to go with image, apply image, and we are going to select the low layer as our source. Check off invert, select add as you're blending, and scale should be 2, offset should be 0. Now I'm working in a 16-bit image. If you're working in an 8-bit image, the settings are different. You're still going to select your low layer. Invert is going to be checked off. Blending is going to be subtract. Offset will be 128, and scale will stay at 2. So again, it's not inverted, subtract blend mode, scale 2, offset 128. So we're just going to click OK there, and that's going to apply that for us. And as we can see, basically by adding this layer, what we're doing is we're adding all of the detail back in. So all of our detail is on this layer. So if we disable this, we see that you get this really sharp layer showing up. So now what we can basically do is we're going to create a layer in between these two, which we're going to actually retouch on. And all we really need to do, and I'm not going to kind of spend all the time that I took on this. This took maybe 10-15 minutes to kind of perfect, but we're going to kind of go through a little bit of it and show you the general idea. So we're going to select our brush tool, lower the flow to around 3 to 4%. 3% is usually pretty good. Get our brush fairly small, and hardness I would say about 28-30% should be good. And we're just going to basically sample and paint is all we're going to do. So we're going to sample from here, we're going to paint in, and we're just going to sort of gradually paint in to the point where we are getting rid of the blue tone and just kind of bringing the skin tone back a little bit here. So constantly sampling over and over again and filling in. So if we're kind of muting this top portion, we're just going to sample the lighter color. And again, you're going to have to kind of go back and forth on this a few times before you get it right. But the great thing is, you're doing it on a separate layer. It's completely non-destructive, so you can create as many of those layers as you want, and then just kind of keep working it until you get to a result that you're happy with. And it may look like we're not really doing much here, but gradually we're sort of getting to the point where we're happy with it. And like I said, you're going to kind of keep going and refining this. Let's just kind of maybe take this down a little bit, and then we're going to move to the other eye. I would probably keep going on this if it was the final image. But as you can see here, if we immediately kind of toggle that on and off, we see that we've gotten rid of the blue tone there and replaced it with our skin tone. But in the meantime, we have all of the texture that we originally had. And you can kind of keep refining this. Like this spot still maybe looks a little bit too dark, so we can kind of take some of this color here and just lighten that up, and maybe there's that we can smooth out this transition between here and so on and so on. So we can kind of just keep working this gradually, and you can if you're kind of at the point where you're happy, create a new layer and just keep working that. But we're just going to move over to the other eye quickly here, and we'll look at this area. So if we sample from here, we see that we can just kind of keep taking these colors and then blending them in and gradually kind of muting this blue tone and replacing it with our skin tones. And it does help if you have a Wacom tablet to do this. It's a little bit trickier using just a mouse, but you can certainly do it. And you may be thinking, why didn't we just use like a hue saturation adjustment for this to, to try and desaturate it and maybe just change the colors? And believe me, I tried that and it did not look good. So, based on my experimentation, this was the best approach. So as we kind of work it here, we see again, if we kind of toggle this layer on and off, how much of that blue we actually got rid of. And you see that it's just been replaced with the skin tones, and it looks pretty darn good. And we're just kind of, we just work this through here essentially, and we can keep going with it in through this area here. So if I want to, for example, make this line a little bit less crisp, I can just kind of go through with the low opacity and just blend that together. But again, the crucial part of this, and it's the same if you're actually retouching the skin itself, is that you have to sample constantly. You can't really take, I can't take this color and apply it here, or I can't take this color and apply it here. Like you have to, every little bit where the actual shading transitions, you have to make sure you keep sampling it. And you could use clone stamp tool here as well, but I just find that paintbrush works best. Essentially with the clone stamp tool you're sampling anyway, so just use a brush tool and it works just fine. So if we kind of zoom out there, we see that, before where we lost all this texture, or we would have lost all this texture, and I would probably take some more of this blue out here if this was final image. I mean, this is what we ended up with before, and as you can see, I took even more of that out. But if we look at where we started to where we are now, we see that we've taken care of a lot of that that eyeshadow and really pushed it down. So essentially, to finish this image off, we would just kind of keep doing that and iteratively just blending the colors from above down and then from here over, and so on and so on. So we hope you found that useful. And as always, we put up new videos, usually about 2 or 3 videos a month. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook so you don't miss any of them. And we'll see you next time.